Everyone, I'd like to call to order the July meeting of the Cranston City Plan Commission. First order of business is approval of minutes of the June meeting. Commissioner Frias.
Hello, everyone. I had some revisions to the minutes. If you look at the documents I passed out, they go to page 3. They're in red line. They're in pages 3, 4, and 5. Page 3 basically makes it clear what I was correcting in the staff report related to traditional energy resources. Page 4 has some further red lines where I make it clear what I was asking the applicant in the E-Tree Park proposal, and also my reasoning on the issues I had with the E-Tree Commons proposal. And then on page 5, I simply make it clear as to that my concern with the Khaleesi development was in relation to density, and that as long as the density remained the same, I didn't have an issue. So those were my amendments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other questions or amendments or changes to the minutes? Okay, hearing no objection to the changes that Commissioner Frias had put forward, I'll accept a motion to accept the minutes as amended. Moved by Commissioner Lanfear and seconded by Commissioner Frias. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Subdivision and land development projects. First item is E-Tree Commons, and this is a continuation of a public hearing that was held at the most recent meeting.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Again, for the record, Robert Murray, 21 Garden City Drive in Cranston. I'm here tonight on behalf of the developer proposed and the owner of the proposed E-Tree Commons development on Park Avenue in Knightsville. As members of the commission may recall, we were here last month, made a presentation with the assistance of Bill Lavery from Joe Casale's office. Joe is here tonight covering the meeting. The travel of this matter was we submitted under the Unified Development Review Statute, which required us to seek from the Planning Commission certain zoning relief, principally relating to the area requirement for the proposed 8 units. As you may recall, the planning staff sent a positive recommendation to the commission in their staff report. And after discussion that evening, the first consideration by the Planning Commission was voting on the zoning relief that was being asked. I believe that failed. The request failed on a vote of 6-2. And at that juncture, we asked the matter be continued so my client, Daniel Balkin, who's again here this evening, could consider what options, if any, we would undertake moving forward. After significant consideration, discussions with Mr. Marcella, with the planning director, my client has chosen reluctantly to limit this proposed minor land development to the 5 units that would be allowed under the zoning. That would necessitate, would eliminate the need for any zoning relief. We considered, we listened and reviewed the issues relating to the density, whether it's 6 or 7, we'd still need zoning relief. So in the interest of time, economy of process, and cost, my client has chosen just to move forward as a matter of right with 5 proposed units. I would ask that the planning commission, and we'll be happy to review the plan again. But if, for anyone who wasn't here, who needs to be refreshed, we had proposed as an existing building with 2 units, and we had proposed another building with 6 units, and provided the necessary parking and development of the site, which is before you right there on the screen. So at this point, we would ask that the board consider granting the minor land development proposal with a condition that there be no more than 5 units in total. That would be the 2 existing units and 3 additional new units. We'd ask that you consider doing that this evening, and then we could coordinate with the staff at final plan submission the details for the proposal. We still need to get our drainage approved. So we were able to, we believe the site plan worked for 8 units. We can certainly make it work for 5 units. And Mr. Casali's office would just modify the necessary engineering that would be required just for 5 units. The reason we're doing that is in discussions with Mr. Marcella, it was his opinion, and I respected that. If we ask the board for consideration for 6 units, for example, we'd have to go through an entirely new process of advertising notice to the neighbors, which was with the certified mails about $600 last time. So because of the area around there, there's so many properties, there were substantial notices that had to be sent. But in short, if the board would allow us to proceed based on what's allowed by right, we would appreciate that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from members of the commission for Mr. Murray at this time? Commissioner Frias.
Very quick thing. This is for either Mr. Murray or the staff. Is the density, I believe, if it's only 5, is around 10? Is that basically what the number is? Or if, okay, so it'd be within the comp plan number, I understand.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the commission at this time? All right, let's turn to staff then.
I think Brianna handled it last time. She's not here. I don't know if Mr. Pizzullo was going to comment.
Yes. I didn't actually expect to present on this one. Jonas, do we have it? Do we have the slides up?
We have the slides up. Yeah.
Okay. For this one, staff made a positive recommendation for 8 units last month because the 8 units was consistent with the neighborhood. So we would certainly make a positive recommendation for 5 units. And staff has no issue with reviewing this application administratively and finalizing this application.
Okay, thank you, Director. Any member of the public here this evening wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, seeing none, let me just ask Mr. Lima if there is anybody online who would like to be heard on this matter.
There's no public comment.
Okay, let the record show no public comment from online or among those present. If there are no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Ask one question.
Absolutely, Commissioner Lanfear.
I just want to be certain before we vote that the conditions of approval that were recommended by staff remain the same, as well as the findings that were made by staff. Would that be the case?
If I might just interject, I apologize for not reviewing those with you. I don't think there's any objection to any of the conditions. The only thing I would note in condition 5, obviously with it would only be 3 new units, so the impact fee would be reduced in half because as proposed there, it's the 6 new units at $593.46 each, so it would be half of $3,560.76. We're not gonna, the condition 4 about the parking, so with less units becomes less of an issue, but we don't see that as a problem in terms of the parking on the east property line. We'll be able to provide more parking, so it'll be less of a concern. But the other 3 conditions are certainly not objectionable to the applicant.
Mr. Chairman, just one follow-up comment. If we could look at the findings, there may be some findings that are no longer required without the need for zoning relief. Is that
Well,
accurate?
the zoning relief is denied, so they're basically not asking for any zoning relief, so that wouldn't even be part of this decision. The only thing you're voting on is just the minor land development part, so,
So are we required to make any findings?
well, I mean, I would look at the staff's findings and, yeah, you would, just like any normal subdivision, you would be required to make the statutory findings, which I believe staff did in their report. So any motion could adopt staff findings in their report, should you wish to do that.
Mr. Chairman, I would think that obviously the middle condition there relating to dimensional zoning relief is no longer applicable, so as Mr. Coop pointed out, perhaps we should just, I know Ms. Musso may not be able to see it, but that second condition probably should be struck. Not the condition, the fine. There you go. Up. Right there, the staff notes proposal requires to seek dimensional zoning. That probably should be.
Mr. Chairman, I think that in the report, this was all based upon, the 8 units, and we had to do an analysis on the general consistency with the neighborhood. If we're in section B of the staff report, required findings, required finding, the proposed development is consistent with the comprehensive plan and has satisfactorily addressed the issues where there may be inconsistencies. Staff recommends we just change that statement to the application is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And I can remove the rest of that information because it's not germane.
Okay,
The next finding, I'd have to I would take out, proposals. Again, for the statement about zoning, I would state that the proposal conforms to the zoning, C2 zoning. And the rest of the findings, I believe, will be the same. Yes, so those 2 statements, I can amend that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan for the first, and then the second, it's consistent with zoning, and go no farther. And that'll be reflected in the final decision.
okay, with those, with those changes as described and been placed on the record, I'll accept a motion. Commissioner
Make a
Matisse.
comment, please. I would like to propose one other condition because this project is within the Knightsville Streetscape project and the sidewalk was just poured as stamped colored concrete sidewalks in front of this property. And I see that you're proposing DOT standard 43.1, which is just a broom finished Portland cement concrete sidewalk. I would like to propose that the sidewalk is replaced with in-kind materials, which would be the stamped colored concrete sidewalk.
We have no objection.
Thank you.
Okay, with that additional condition, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move acceptance of the findings as articulated by the staff and the proposed, the recommendation to approve the minor development.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner
with
Coop.
the additional condition
With-
and striking or changing number 5 to 3 units. Okay.
Yes, right. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Lanfear. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item, public hearing on the Pavilion Avenue replat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dylan Conley, attorney on behalf of the applicant. I do know that this board has seen this matter before. I don't know the level of detail you want me to review the application with, but it's virtually identical with the exception of the fact that the regulations that oversee the application have changed. So this is a unified development review application. Prior, it was a minor subdivision with a referral to the zoning board for dimensional relief. So it's the same application, but we are seeking the dimensional relief from this board directly. There's a favorable recommendation from the staff report. It refers largely to findings that are consistent with our application and in our application materials. I do have the sister-in-law of the principal of the LLC present. The principal of the LLC is not available. He's currently hunkering down in the Dominican Republic. He could not get off the island. So the hurricane kind of has him stuck in the Caribbean right now. I am very happy to give as much of a detailed presentation as the board wants, but you have seen it before. There is a detailed staff report. I don't want to use time unnecessarily. I do see that there are members of the public here. I would like to reserve the opportunity to respond to any issues that they raise.
You're also, yeah. So, this matter was heard by the zoning board, for zoning relief. There was a 2-2 vote. So there was a motion to approve that failed 2-2. So, Mr. Conley has filed an appeal of that decision because, and now it is before this board because this board can act as the zoning board. However, under the doctrine of administrative finality, you first have to make one of two positive findings in order for you to move forward on the application. The first finding would be that there's a substantial difference in the application, meaning it was a 5-unit and now it's a 2-unit, and that the application is substantially different. The application itself is substantially different. The other way there can be a material difference would be that there's a change in the law, that the law has changed, and therefore the application is now reviewable under a different standard. I believe without speaking for Mr. Conley, and I'm not going to make the argument for him, the application itself, the development is the same. So I believe his argument is that the zoning board heard this application under the old zoning review standards. Even though it was heard in 2024, it was certified complete in 2023. Therefore, they reviewed this matter under the old standards. You would be reviewing the matter under the new standards, and therefore that would, in my opinion, you would have to make that finding first, that reviewing this matter under the new standards would therefore allow the doctrine, the matter to move forward under the doctrine of administrative finality. That first hurdle would be cleared. If you don't believe that, you would have to take a vote, and if the vote fails, meaning the applicant does not meet that standard, this application dies before this board, and the appeal would then move forward in Superior Court, essentially on the same application. So that matter is not in abeyance. It's being, without getting into details, because Miss Kathleen's husband is on the land court, Cranston doesn't go to the land court. It goes into the court system in general, which is where we are right now.
Okay, given that information, I think it just might be helpful to explain how this proposal differs from the one that had been up before the zoning board.
Two clear regulatory distinctions. The first is that the planning board has jurisdiction. Previously, the planning board did not have jurisdiction to grant the dimensional relief. And second, the standards for the dimensional relief are distinct. The 2024 law amended the standards for dimensional relief. It dropped least relief necessary, for example. It rephrased how more than a mere inconvenience functions. So both the board with jurisdiction and the standards themselves are different. So we're asking this board to essentially consider an identical application, identical in terms of the actual proposal, but underneath a clearly distinct regulatory structure.
Okay, I see. Okay, are there any questions, Commissioner Frias?
First, a question to Mr. Marcel, then I'll have a question, Mr. Conley. When you say there's a change in law, does it have to be, is there some kind of like significant change in law, minor change in law, or any change in law?
The case law, I don't want to say, there's no distinct, and I just briefed this matter in Narragansett. There's no really distinct, what I would call level of change. I would believe, again, it has to be material.
Okay,
So
all right.
that, I mean, it is a material, the law is clear, a material change in circumstances. So I believe the law would have to be material to the application.
Okay.
What material is up to you guys to
Understood.
decide. Yep.
The second question I have is because you were at the zoning board, you said it was a 2-2 decision. Was there any sort of public discussion by the commissioners on the zoning board, the members of the zoning board, as to why they denied?
Yes, so the two people who voted for it, basically said that the only relief that they were asking for was and don't stop me, a lot of applications was for a dimensional, the frontage, they didn't have enough frontage, and therefore it was one minor, dimensional relief request. The two who voted against it, and it's in the decision, they, brought up aspects of the comprehensive plan. They believe that it was the density or the setup of the project wasn't in conformance with the neighborhood. And that was the reasoning that they had given for their negative vote.
Okay.
Correct, Ellen?
I'll allow the decision in the record to speak for itself. I do think there was a lot of interesting conversation presented by the people that voted against the application that was not related to the standards. Thankfully, today, there's a distinct set of standards that we're reviewing them by. I will also say, even relative to the comprehensive plan, this is a third area that the overarching laws have changed, which should be considered. The comprehensive plan is now specifically focused on the future land use map and not the comprehensive plan at large when making decisions. So that was codified in between 23 and 24 as well. So that's a third area of regulatory oversight, which is distinct from this application to when it was reviewed by the zoning board.
Okay. And just like I was going to say, Mr. Marcello, is like, I appreciate your summation of what the zoning board decision was, because in the information I saw, all I have is like one piece of paper that just says decision denied. Yeah.
The zoning board does not make their decision. The minutes were taken,
Okay.
and,
All right. I'll listen to what they have to
but
say.
those
Okay.
aren't recorded. All you get is the 2-2 denial.
I understand.
So let me just check with Mr. Marcella again. Would there initially need to be a motion to recognize that this is a different application than the one that had
Correct. And then
previously?
if you do make a positive vote, then the matter would move forward to be heard. There's members of the public that gave their reasoning why the application should be denied, and then you would hear it as the zoning board based upon the criteria, both Mr. Conley's presentation on the merits and then the neighbors' reasoning for their request for a denial.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Commissioner Lanfear.
That's correct.
I apologize. I'll just repeat that for those that are online. The new law with the new regulatory standards took effect in January of 2024.
Agreed.
And the applicant chose to make application to the zoning board after that law was in effect, correct?
No. So the applicant would have preferred unified development review. The city's position was that we were not eligible for it. We consented to review from the zoning board. It was not the applicant's choice to go to the zoning board. We would have preferred just the single hearing in front of the planning board. That is actually a portion of our appeal.
Okay. So although the matter was, in fact, went through and came to a decision of sorts by the zoning board, the applicant would have chosen to go unified development if allowed to do so by the planning staff. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the first vote at all? Okay, I'll accept a motion to consider this as essentially a new application. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we not accept this as a new application. The application itself is identical, and the applicant had the opportunity, although it was not their opportunity of choice, to go before the zoning board. There is no, and not that it would matter, but allegation that there was anything at the zoning board that was improper. The zoning board rendered a decision. That decision is appealable. And I don't believe that at this juncture, we should make a decision on something that was decided by the zoning board and is under appeal.
Okay, motion is made by Commissioner Lanfear to not take up this item as a new item. Is there a second? Commissioner Frias.
I'll second for purposes of discussion.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Frias. All right, open for discussion.
I've been trying to think about this for a while. Usually I just say no. You went to the zoning board, you didn't get what you want, you went to court, you appeal. The problem is the deletion of the least relief necessary provision in the zoning law that went into effect January 1st, 2024. I actually think that is a material change, because you could see decisions before made by judges denying zoning relief, saying it's not the least relief necessary. I'm not sure it's applicable to your case, but that is a change to me. That is material. So unless I hear from one of my colleagues that I'm wrong, that change in the law is not material to your case, I'm inclined not to support Commissioner Lanfear's motion reluctantly, but I have to, as the solicitor said, that's the law. I have to follow the law even if I don't agree with the outcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
thank you. I wasn't sure whether or not I could comment during this portion of the discussion, but I do think the change in the standards is perhaps the most material consideration. It's a distinct set of rules which this board has to consider of whether or not we've met our threshold for relief. I do think additionally, the fact that it's a distinct jurisdiction is relevant. And lastly, as touched upon briefly, the considerations of the comprehensive plan, the law now requires that all decisions be made based on the future land use map. that level of focus on the future land use map is a distinct standard for the comprehensive plan. So even in the standards that remained, the focus that you use to analyze a remaining standard is different in and of itself. So I would say that every single standard related to the dimensional relief has changed either directly or on a secondary level because the way we review that standard has changed. I don't think there's anything in the law as it applies to dimensional relief and a variance which continues in 2024 as identical as what it was in 2023. So the prism by which every single dimensional variance application is reviewed post 2024 is distinct from pre 2024.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to assess Commissioner Lanfear's concern, and one question I have is concerning the materiality of the change in the law as to jurisdiction. Under the old law, there was no option for the applicant to choose between unified review and going to the zoning board. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
Under the
we
new
went,
law, is it the applicant's choice?
correct. The applicant, you can choose. Matter of fact, I had a meeting today where someone will be choosing not to go to unified development, but to go to the zoning board rather than having zoning relief heard by the planning board.
Yeah. I don't see how
Yeah,
that's
I'm
not.
sure the people of the State House didn't consider this. They didn't consider a lot of things, but one of the things now is you're going to have developers forum shopping, almost like judge shopping. Do they think they're going to get a better decision from the zoning board, or do they think they're going to get a better decision from the planning board? However, back to your original question, that part I do not believe because the planning board is acting as essentially as the zoning board. In my opinion, the jurisdictional difference, in my opinion, is not the material aspect of the applicant, in my opinion. But it's because, again, you would then be, you're going to hear the case again as sitting as the zoning board. It's the different standards that would be the materiality, not necessarily the jurisdiction of the planning board or the zoning board, in my opinion. You don't have to agree with me.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, but in my opinion, while the distinction between procedure and substance is a real distinction, is a dramatic change in procedure a material change?
That's, again, this is a unique case. This is, and I apologize. I mean, in other words, it's not going to happen. Well, I shouldn't say that because they're changing the laws every year, but I mean, it shouldn't happen again. Of an application that got carried over from it started off in one way, got carried over into the new year. So it's a difficult, there's no right or wrong answer. I don't have the answer. So,
Okay. In any event, I think Commissioner Frias's point that the least relief required, dropping that restriction, that's a substantive change that would make a material difference in an application.
Commissioner Fryas.
One question to the solicitor. Do you think the least relief necessary is that deletion of that standard is relevant, like for this proceeding, like their application? Or it's not
well, that's for you to decide.
okay, so it could, okay. I think I know what
If it's relevant, that goes to materiality. I believe relevance goes to materiality. If the more relevant something is, the more material it is to the application.
Yeah, okay.
Not to give you the runaround, but that's really the key.
No,
That's the legal reason.
I know when I asked you the question, you started giving me the answer back. I kind of understood what you were saying. Okay.
Let me ask this question. When was this presented or acted upon by the zoning board? What meeting?
April 10th, apparently. I'm not 100% confident, but that sounds about right.
Yeah, a couple of months ago.
Okay, so it's subsequent after, to January 1st, 2024. Yeah.
The hearing was in 2024 on 2023 with 2023 or prior standards.
Mhm.
I've had many applications go, right at the cusp, depending on when the application was filed, when it was reviewed, when it was heard, things like that.
When was this application filed again? The date? Oh, October? I'm here, October 23. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the reason it was under the old, correct. But to Ms. Lamphier's, there was nothing stopping the applicant from withdrawing the application and then resubmitting the application in 2024 under the new standards. I've seen that happen once. Also, they withdrew their 2023 application, came in under 2024, got it reviewed under the new standards, which ended up getting denied anyway. But that was what they did.
I would suggest the travel may be a bit distinct on that front. I don't know that in terms of the time frame and the amount of time it took to get to our hearing, considering an October application for a April eventual hearing, restarting the process and missing the building window is a material consideration. In order to pull an application and resubmit an application, it's not free, but not simply because of the cost, but more importantly because of the time. The April zoning board hearing was subsequent to a planning board hearing. That planning board hearing occurred earlier in time. That could have been a month or 2 months earlier in time. The amount of time it takes to get to completion is a very relevant consideration for developers. Foundation before frost is a very real consideration.
We have a motion and a second, so
Yes, we do. Unless there are any further comments, questions? Commissioner? No. We will take a vote on the motion made by Commissioner Lanfear to not hear this as a new proposal. Do I have that correct? Okay. All right. So all in favor of that motion, please say aye. Okay. Opposed, nay. Okay, Commissioner Lanfear votes aye, and the rest of the panel votes nay, so that we will be hearing this this evening as it is on the table as a matter of business now. Okay. All right. Could we just briefly go through the staff report? Just so we're all back on the same page.
So on the staff side, not much has changed in regards to, the report itself or staff opinions and analysis on this application. So it's going to be largely the same presentation, the same staff report that you saw for the previous application. Heard in April. Yeah, the zone is a B1 for allows single 2-family dwellings. The FUM designation is single and 2-family residential for less than 10.8 units per acre. And the project is to merge 4 lots into 2 lots to construct 2 2-family homes, 1 on each lot. Here is a brief zoning map. CB1, future land use map, and an aerial view. I think the aerial view lays out the best the actual lots. It is, you can see here's access going to be proposed access for one of the lots, he's proposed access for the other lot. 3D aerial view, street view for the proposed driveway number 1. That is right here. And proposed driveway number 2. And here is the site plan. You can see these are 2 flag-shaped lots. And each lot will feature a driveway and a 2-family on it. Here is since we're actually going to be talking about the zoning, here is the zoning relief that is requested for parcel A. So for both parcels, it is, the applicant is asking for relief from frontage. For parcel A, which is on the left, minimum frontage required is 60 feet. Proposed is 20 feet. And for parcel B, the proposed is 40 feet. Again, the planning analysis and findings of fact are going to be largely the same as the last application. You know, basically by right development, a allowed development of 2 families, they have enough. No, the lot sizes are large enough at I don't have the number in front of me. What is the number of each lot size again?
They're approximately 13,000 square feet each.
Okay, 13,000 required is 8,000 for a 2-family. You know, by right subdivision, and only requires a dimensional relief for frontage. Minimum lot area requirements are met by this application. You know, the proposals for reconfiguration of existing record lots and would eliminate existing nonconformities regarding the lot area. And proposal fits within the future land use map designation. And there are additional policies within the comprehensive plan that are supportive of infill housing within and around existing neighborhoods in the city. And this project is consistent with those policies. So here's the new part where we're talking about unified development. For first finding, you know, staff concurs with the applicant's statement that the hardship is due to the unique physical characteristics of the lot, as 2 lots are landlocked and 3 lots are undersized lots of record. There are no factors that suggest that the hardship is due to physical or economic disability of the applicant. Second finding, the staff finds that the undersized frontage of lots predates the current ownership. For the third finding, proposal is compatible with general character of the surrounding area and the comprehensive plan from our analysis. And for final finding, staff concurs with the applicant's statement that the requested release is minimum needed for the applicant to enjoy reasonable by right use of the property. And on the subdivision side, you know,
No,
Do we wanna
no.
do you
keep
want me to
go-
complete the
No, yeah,
presentation?
keep going, because I would, since it is unified development, I'd like a vote on the even though you've already voted on the subdivision, go ahead and go through it. Thanks.
So again, this is all basically the same, except because of our stricter standards for unified development, the notice was 400 feet and certified mail return receipt request, which is really the only difference here. And, you know, the proposed density of the, so, you know, the proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plans, future land use map. And, you know, the proposed density is 6.58 units per acre, which fits well within the single and two-family residential designation of less than 10.89 units per acre. As discussed, the requires dimensional zoning relief on the frontage. There's no significant cultural, historical, or natural features that have been found on the site. No wetlands or flood zones are found on the site. No significant environmental impacts are anticipated, as this is just a largely already urban cleared land. And project will be subject to all state and local regulations pertaining to environmental impacts, wetlands, and erosion control. And the 2018 Natural Heritage Map shows that there are no known rare species located on site. The proposal will not result in creation of individual lots with such physical constraints to development that building on those lots is according to pertinent regulations and building standards would be impractical. Design of location and building lots, utilities, drainage, and other improvements will conform to local regulations for mitigation of flooding and soil erosion. The subject properties will have adequate permanent physical access to Pavilion Avenue, a public city street. The proposal provides a safe and adequate local circulation for vehicular traffic. So, recommendation for the approval of the subdivision. Staff finds this proposal consistent with the standards for required findings of fact set forth in Rhode Island General Law 452360, as well as the subdivisions and land development regulations. Staff therefore recommends that the City Plan Commission adopt the documented findings of fact and approve the preliminary plan application, subject to the conditions denoted below. Condition 1, submission of letters of availability from the Providence Water Supply Board and Veolia Water for water and sewer availability respectively. 2, final plan shall be stamped by Rhode Island licensed engineer or land surveyor. 3, the final plan shall provide details on driveway arrangement for parcel A in relation to abutting retention walls. 4, curb-to-curb pavement restoration shall occur as needed in accordance with and to the satisfaction of the Department of Public Works. 5, payment of Eastern Cranston Capital Facilities Development Impact Fee of $2,373.84. Rolling back a bit, the reason for condition number 3, which I forgot to talk about, the site plan doesn't really show any. There's a retention wall right on the edge right here, and we just wanted to see kind of confirmation with there's a retention wall for the existing house on this side, and there's another retention wall that kind of abuts the driveway. You know, we just wanted to see some clarity on how the driveway is supposed to be arranged between those retention walls, and how because currently from just when we looked at it and where the boundary was, it didn't entirely make sense to us, but that is something that can be worked out in the final plan.
No objection to any of those conditions. Spoke to my client about that. When it comes to issues like the retaining wall, et cetera, we're not asking for any additional relief. We will build a code on all those fronts. If I may, I think perhaps the briefest summary of the whole project is we're not asking to decrease or change the frontage. Everything's exactly the same.
Yes.
We have 4 incredibly odd lots, and we're trying to make 2 relatively normal, oversized flag lots. So it's a Picasso, and we're trying to turn it into some level of symmetry and order.
Okay, thank you. Other members of the public who wish to be heard on this matter? If so, please come forward. State your name and address for the record. And
good evening. I'm Lori Grover. I live at 3 Pavilion Court. I have lived in my home at that property, bought it brand new in 1985. One of the first things that I would like to address, if I may, is the notice of this hearing. I received my letter on May 25th. And it is my understanding that there is supposed to be 14 days notice for these hearings. The letter arrived on the City of Cranston letterhead from Conley Law Office, and the wrong date of this meeting is in the letter. It is scheduled on this letter for Thursday, July 2nd. So when we did find out that this was happening again, I immediately started contacting lawyers 3 days before a holiday week. And while I am prepared to make remarks this evening, my hope is that this committee will grant a hearing in the future on this matter so that we, the neighbors, may move forward with hiring the attorney that we have been interviewing and be able to represent ourselves accurately.
Okay, thank you. Is that,
Well, I do have remarks prepared. I guess it just depends on whether or not this is relevant.
yeah, I mean, I would urge you to proceed with the remarks.
So we don't want to take that into consideration and move this over. We would like to be represented by council as a neighborhood. These are some of my neighbors.
I was gonna say, Chairman, maybe we just have her say her public comments in the neighborhood, and then we can make a decision of whether or not we grant a continuance, whether or not the notice was adequate. We'll talk to our solicitor. But we should get the public comment as to why you are either opposed or in support of the project.
Okay.
Okay? I think that's,
Yeah, that's the point that
Okay,
I wanted
alright.
to make. Yes.
Okay. I also have some photographs. Is that something that I should hand over? Or,
You can submit it to the board and it would be, objectors exhibit X. And yes, you can submit anything you wish.
okay, because some of them actually relate to what my remarks, so I didn't know whether or not, okay. So this entire mess began back in 2020 when that property was purchased. 44 Pavilion Avenue was purchased by Angelo Moretti, who owns Arlington Auto Body. Shortly after he bought the property, the residents, he informed one of my neighbors that he was buying the property, the home for his granddaughter who was getting married. That never materialized. And what happened shortly after was that he began demolishing property that was a natural landscape of grass and trees and provided a barrier of privacy between Pavilion Avenue and Pavilion Court and Fountain Avenue. And he came in with heavy equipment and bulldozers and excavators and tore that property up and changed the grade of that property dramatically. At one point, and there are pictures that I will leave for all of you, there was a pile of dirt in the middle of the property that stood probably close to 50 feet high that was there all winter into the spring, trees down that he dug up with a bulldozer and just left it. I can't tell you how many times I called housing. I called the mayor's office. Just wanted to know what was going on and if this was actually something somebody could do on their own in the city without any oversight. It all came to a head when I watched a flatbed truck pull up with retaining wall blocks that you would see on the highway backing into the property. And he started building a wall because where he had changed the grade of the property, it was now a danger and the dirt wouldn't hold. Probably 100 of these blocks were placed on top of an old existing wall with absolutely no drainage. When I called the mayor's office, with all due respect, his secretary answered the phone, and when I began explaining why I was calling, she cut me off and said that Mr. Moretti had all the permits that he needed. Well, I looked up permits. I didn't see any. And I understand that there is an ordinance in Cranston that requires if topsoil is going to be removed under certain circumstances, there is permitting required. So when I called the city, they went to the property and slapped a stop work order on the door. But the day after that is when the flatbed truck showed up with all of the retaining blocks. So this has basically been allowed, that property has been allowed to be completely changed and altered, including the proposed driveway on the left. That was completely excavated and a new retaining wall was built, and I do not know whether there is drainage there either. Since this work was done, one of my neighbors now has her basement flooding. The city never addressed this, and it's not like we haven't asked. But there are a number of concerns with these properties going in. First of all, it is a privacy issue, and I understand the argument about housing. I get that. But when I purchased my home in 1985, I was one of 3 single-family homes, and the rest, the developer decided he could make more money, and he built duplexes. And I can tell you, all these years later, at first, those homes started out as owner-occupied, and it was really cool. It was nice. As the years went by, most of those properties are now rentals. And I find myself on a regular basis having to call the city because grass isn't cut and gutters are hanging and fences are falling and driveways are sinking. This is not conducive to the neighborhood that those of us that have been there for a long time want to see happen, especially with no oversight from the very beginning, when we were sounding alarms and asking the city, please come and make sure what's happening here, this is in line with what's supposed to happen. And it never did. So aside from, if you'll excuse me, I've done almost all of this without my notes, but I gotta look. Aside from the logistical problems that I see with this project for trash, recycling, snow removal, we have issues of water and drainage. No one has determined whether that lot on the left is stable enough because it's all new dirt there. Is that stable enough to support this construction? And again, it's coming back to the integrity and the landscape of the neighborhood. So what I'm asking for is, at the very least, some time for us to be able to bring our case with legal counsel to support the way my neighbors and I feel about this issue with such a short time frame and a misleading letter that arrived a week ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments. Anybody else like to be heard? Yes, sir. Ma'am.
Hi, my name is Judith Forts. I live right behind that. And as my neighbor stated, I received this letter on the first day it came out, June 22nd, certified. I was home. As soon as I opened it up, I see Thursday, July 2nd. Angry. Okay, it looks like somebody's trying to deceive us. But some people might just look at it and figure, oh, Thursday, and not realize it's 4th of July. So immediately Monday, I called, I think he's doing it. Tell by his voice, I called him, Brianna, I don't know if she's here, and I also called Director Pizzulo and talked to him, and I was very upset. Oh, it's changed on the website, it's changed on the website, that's what everybody kept on saying. A lot of people didn't even get theirs. They have the doorbells, we all have them. Mailman didn't even ring the doorbell to a lot of people, because they got him coming up, putting the mail in and just putting the pink slip in that it was there. So that's the first concern. So whoever was supposed to proofread this, including the lawyer that sent it out, the legal, wrong. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I don't know if you want to see that. Pull up that diagram, this one right here, that you guys did, that they did propose. Over there on the left, where those lines are, there's some kind of encroachment issue going on. Because of that wall that's built, I couldn't find anything, I didn't have enough time to dig. Supposed to be their fight. Because Angela's the one that built the wall. I watched him. I have pictures. I have dates, everything. Video. I watched him build the wall. He built the wall in April of 2022. And the client purchased the property in January of 2022. Because what happened was Angela was digging all that property up, and I'll give you a timeline, all that property up, that whole, I don't know, Belfair Drive. It was this low, and he brought it up this high. Now when he brought it up this high, it's dangerous. Kids go back there, they're gonna go down on the wall that was originally there. So he came in with the cinder blocks. I watched him, and a guy with a truck, whatever, he get up and put it there. Not even shortly after that, he had a company come in and put a big 6-foot fence up on top of that. So that's what happened. So you see that right there. There's also up the top, there's a little W thing. The reason why his client bought that property is because Angelo had it surveyed and bought all this land. And that little point, that W, was on that property. And he told him, you must remove your deck. Remove that off of my property. So his client purchased the property. That's what happened. Now, you guys want to see pictures? This is just some of the stuff that's been going on in the last couple of years. My backyard is right there. And I see it, including their client taking metal off of the car. And I know this doesn't have anything to do with the frontage, but this is what's going to happen as time goes on with landlord absentee. I only told auto body. I don't know if you want me to pass this down. I wrote it on what it is. I don't need to know about it. There's the wall. So that's the original wall. This is the wall he built, and that's the wood one on top. You want me to pass it around? So you can see it? Okay. Just so you know. No one took care of it, only the lady that originally owned it. Second picture is, got pictures of him excavating, moving all the dirt, how high up it is. Dealing with for the last, since Angelo bought it, and then A&E bought it. And then I just have a quick statement when you're done.
For the record, I'm. That's second pass. Yeah. Gotcha.
still a mess now. My other neighbors have pictures. Go ahead now. Okay, just a little information about where I live. I live at 30 Pavilion Avenue. So it's right behind me. He lives 44th Pavilion, which was part of that, all that was together. He lives 32 Pavilion Avenue, so it's right behind our property. So original owner was Palmer Martone at 44th Pavilion, is where he bought this house. They tried to build a house back there, back in 1984. Palmer and her husband had no children. She didn't want that there, so the neighborhood fought. They never built it there. There was a foundation built, that's it. So she ended up buying those 4 pieces of property, so this wouldn't happen. So now, from 12/2/2020, she ended up going in a nursing home. Her brother took over. He ended up selling it to Angelo Moretti on 12/2/20. Ever since he bought that property, I called the city inspectors, and Carlos would reiterate that many times on him. He wasn't cutting the grass, maintaining the property. The weeds are over 6 feet high. Angelo had someone come and remove all the large privacy trees back there in the lot. Angelo's out there frequently with the backhoe moving all the dirt to make the two driveways go into the street, and he moved all the dirt up high in the empty lot. He also removed the foundation on around 4/22/22. No, sorry, around 4/22/22, he started putting up a cinder block wall about 6 feet high without proper drainage. I called the city inspectors about it several times, and they knew it was against the code and not done properly and did nothing about it. The city inspector said Angelo was giving them a hard time. Then Angelo added another 6 foot high fence after that, and then I said about the encroachment already against Angelo Moretti, which is Arlington Auto Body and A&E. On January 4th, 2022, A&E Properties bought all the lots in the house on Pavilion Avenue. And the reason why is because, like I said, that little piece of W there is on that property, and Angelo told them, if you don't move that, you need to move that, and he said he bought the property. So the owner of the lot's property was also the owner of 148 Fountain Avenue, which is right behind it. From the time he owned the lot, empty lots, he would bring unregistered, salvaged, and crashed up cars on the lot all times, day and night. He also had 2 large boats on the lot. They were constantly out there cutting metal pieces off the cars, and they would throw them in a pile. They also have a pile of tires that are still there now. They built a shed on 9/4/23 and started putting a lot of metal pieces in it. The city inspector was called several more times about junk unregistered cars in the lots, and the owner would move the cars and bring more. I witnessed the owner of that lot out there with them taking pieces off the cars. I have videos, which I can't show you that. Around August 23rd, they put up the 6 foot fence up with the 2 gates. So A&E put that fence all the way around with 2 gates with locks on them and chains. And then you couldn't see what was going on back there unless you're high up or peeking through. I could see because where my yard is in the back, it's at an angle, but from the street, you couldn't see. So you couldn't see what was going on, and to make sure the city inspector couldn't go on the property at that point. Also, I put on here the unified development thing, from what maybe to make more housing for people. And I don't think it's right that they want to make housing in our backyard. I'm sure my neighbor would like to buy that piece of property so he can have it for his children for the future and not have two families back there. So the city says, this is something I wrote, the city says there's a shortage of homes, but they just built a Seasons Market, gas station and power wash in the old brewery location. They could have built many houses there and it wouldn't be in someone's backyard. There are 4 more gas stations on Cranston Street, very close to Seasons. Do we really need another gas station? There are 3 more car washes less than a mile away. Do we really need more car washes? There are 3 more mini marts, supermarkets at less than a mile. Do we need more mini markets? No. Do we need a dispensary on Reservoir Avenue that's supposed to got approved? No. That could be housing, but they want to put it in our backyard. My neighbors and I bought our houses because our street was from Pavilion Avenue down, single-family homes, there's only one down at the corner that's 2-family. So we all bought our homes, and I've been there 26 years because it was a single-family street, and I thought it was a nice street to live on. So I said, my neighbors and I bought our house because of the street, single-family home. We have a street full of wonderful single-family homeowners that take pride in maintaining and taking care of our properties and look out for each other. Couple of questions. Would the variance alter the character of our neighborhood? Would the variance adding 2 two-family homes lower our home values? Would the variance negatively affect the neighborhood's property values? We are worried about elevation of the properties that would lead to drainage problems. The woman speaking for A&E Properties on February 6th, the first hearing in front of you guys, said the property would be owner occupied, which is not true. On 9/13/2023, he did a quick claim deed, and the new owners are I don't know if I'm saying the name right, Huasca Verisola and Emmeline Santana Estrella. He's not gonna live there because his house is in back where that W is, the porch. They're proposing building the porch looking towards our property, not his property, that he wasn't. So that's not true, because I got the paper. I put most absentee landlords don't take care of their properties and all they care about is money. Mattresses left outside, which is pictures I gave you, unregistered vehicles, which is still there, still back and forth with them. Large sinkholes, which I called on that, nobody could do anything about it for years at the top of the hill, and finally the guy did it, grass not being cut, garbage all over the place. We would have no privacy in the backyard because they removed all the trees. And then garbage bins, recycle bins, they gotta, I think they said 800 feet at the last meeting, they're gonna have to walk from where the property is all the way down the hill incline on both sides to bring their trash and their, recycle bins. And then where's the snow gonna go also? Are they gonna push it down into the street? So there's a lot of reasons why we're against it. And then there's two other things I gotta say, and then I'm done. Most of you guys probably own homes in Cranston. Would you want it in your backyard? Would you want somebody to come on your property? I got 3,400 square feet of property, which is not much in the back. I'm sure you guys have same or more. Would you want that built in your backyard? 4, not 2. 2 two-family homes with all the mess that goes with it. And like I said, with all the problems that I just told you. So that's all I have to say. And if we have to appeal it and get a lawyer, we're gonna do just like they did. But they don't give us enough time. They give us 11 days from the day they sent it. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your comments. Let me just ask our solicitor, and this is a procedural question. Did the neighbors receive what the law would say, timely notice so that they would have the opportunity to be represented by counsel?
Got my script.
Yeah, that's not what the law requires. The law requires mailing of the notice within a certain period of time.
Okay, I see. All right.
42 people were supposed to get it, the mailman told me. So who knows who got it, who didn't, and why you have to see the people there. And they can verify that I called them first thing in the morning on Monday.
I mean, Mr. Chairman, I mean, there is confusion when you put something that says Thursday, July the 2nd. I think potentially we could continue this so that people get proper notice. I don't see what the harm is. Continue it so that people can get proper notice so that we can at least not have this issue. And then they want to get a lawyer, so I don't see what the harm is there either.
Yeah, I mean, that was the concern that I shared and asked the question because, and the additional issue that, and this is 4th of July week, so getting in touch with people, attorneys for representation. I know what the law says, but there was a mistake in the letter that was cited by several people. So,
I complained to them and they said, well, we called the planning commission. They said, oh, it's on the website, but that's not acceptable to the public. Because I don't go on your website all the time. I do work. I work at hospital. I have time to check every time and see what's wrong and what's right.
Although, and then obviously Mr. Conley can jump in, proper notice says date, plat, lot, owner's name, place, etc. It clearly is confusing enough while maybe legally sufficient and confusing enough where I frankly, don't see a reason why a continuance wouldn't be in order. That might be my recommendation also. It seems like the board's going to go that way anyway. Obviously, Mr. Conley can argue as he wishes, but it seems that a continuance, the from what they're telling me, the date, the plat, the lot, the name is sufficient. However, given the confusion in the date, a continuance certainly is your right as a board. We're not up, the time frame won't run, we have certain time frames now where we have to decide. But I'll obviously let the applicant speak to that also.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the concern. I think legal counsel identified the sole issue that was still on the forefront of my mind is that regarding the time frame continuing. Right now, I am not in a position where I can consent to stopping that time frame. The time it has taken to get to where we are, it's been a very long time. And so if this board wishes to continue the matter, I understand why this board wishes to do that, but I am not in a position where I can consent to stoppage of that time frame.
Okay, I understand. Commissioner Frias.
I understand that the applicant's attorney can't consent. He has to consult with his client and for a variety of reasons. But we have allowed this to go forward before us. We could have denied it earlier, I think, potentially. So I think out of an abundance of caution and fairness to the public, we should continue this to the next month. Notice should be sent out again correctly. And then the abutters will have a chance if they can obtain legal counsel. This is not a very, in some ways it's a clear-cut case, but at the same time, you're hearing a lot of issues. That is very concerning. So I'm inclined to continue this till August to the next meeting. But I'll listen to my colleagues if they wanna, they don't.
Okay, is that in the form of a motion made by Commissioner Frias to continue this matter to the meeting of August? And I don't know what the date is in August. We have to give the date. August 6th.
August 6th, 6:30 PM.
I'll make a motion to continue this matter to the meeting of August 6th, at 6:30 PM at this location before the Cranston City Planning Board, and request that the applicant provide adequate notice adequate and fully accurate notice, if possible, before that.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Frias.
Would it
Question on
be
the motion,
okay-
or do you?
Would it be okay if I asked for some clarification on the issue of timing?
Sure.
What is the time requirement and what is the effect of not meeting that?
Well, this is a new application. This is a new application. So we have 90 days from the time of the certificate of completeness to render a decision. So we're not under time crunch right this moment.
Yeah, I was checking. It was either 60 or 90. Either way, it will not be deemed administratively approved.
Thank you.
Okay, do I hear a second? Seconded by Commissioner Zadelis. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the ayes have it, and we will continue this matter to the August meeting. Okay, this is a public informational presentation, Vol Lane RPD. No vote will be taken on this, but this is a pre-application for a residential plan development project.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Good evening, again, members of the Planning Commission. For the record, Robert Murray. We are here tonight on a pre-application matter for a proposed residential plan district out in the Fiskville area of Cranston. I represent 777 Main Street LLC, which is the owner of 4 lots on Assessors Plat 30. With me this evening is Jenna Shea from Dupree Engineering, who's going to introduce this project to you. This is pre-application. Our hope is to leave here tonight with a sense of interest, concern, affection, or whatever for this project from the commission. We have submitted, and this is obviously without a lot of detailed engineering, a conventional subdivision plan that would yield, I believe, 44 lots. And the RPD cannot exceed the 44. And there's a lot of attraction to proceeding with the RPD, the ability to create retain significant open space. There are some wetlands adjoining the upland, but we think that the RPD would be the way to proceed here. So obviously we haven't noticed any neighbors. This is just, this is pre-application just for input and feedback. We have shared this with the planning staff, both I think at a meeting and also since we've submitted this. So with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I just ask Jenna Shea to come up and talk about her work to date on this, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions and obtain any feedback the commission would like to offer this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Jenna Shea, and I am a project manager at Dupree Engineering, which is located at 2 Stafford Court here in Cranston, Rhode Island. I am here on behalf of the applicant to present the pre-application plan submission for the residential plan development project on Vaughn Lane. The project is a residential subdivision that's going to propose 44 lots. The project site is located on Main Street with access through Vaughn Lane and Winnie Street, which are both located off of Main Street. And for just a little bit of context, as you can see, the project site is bordered by the town of Coventry in the south, and then the town of Situate to the west. And it's just north of the Coventry-Arkwright Bridge. A majority of the site is zoned A80, with the exception of, so these green dashed lines on the plan are the zone lines. And then you'll see the smaller section in the top left corner is zoned A20, but everything else is zoned A80 on the site. The total site area is 91 acres, and 65 of which are suitable for development. This is due to the numerous wetlands that are scattered throughout the site. Do we have, yeah, that plan. As you can see, there is an isolated wetland in the northwest corner of the site, so in the left of this page. And that's located within AP 30 lot 83, which is the lot that is zoned A20 for context. And then you'll see there's other wetland areas. So those are the green areas on this plan, all along the south and the eastern edges of the project site, which also include a tributary of the Patuxent River. Wetland flagging, as shown on the plans, has been completed by Dupree Engineering, and a wetland edge verification submission is in progress and being submitted for the project as well. The boundary survey that's currently shown on these conceptual plans is from our GIS, and a boundary survey hasn't been completed to date. And then if we could just go to the next. All right, so on this plan, you'll see there's two lots that are in the bottom right corner of this plan. And I just wanted to point those out. That's AP 30, lots 230 and 259. And I just wanted to point out that those are not a part of this application. They're not part of the proposed subdivision area. And their access will remain within the existing gravel access easement that is located through the property. And that access drive will remain in its existing conditions for both pedestrian and vehicle traffic as they do today. So in order to justify the density that we are proposing in the RPD cluster plan, we've put together a conventional yield plan, which is shown on the screen. We are going to be proposing 44 lots, and they're all single-family homes with private driveways and public roadways that have a pavement width of 24 feet and a right-of-way width of 50 feet. As a part of the subdivision regulations, there is a density calculation, and we calculated that for each of the zones. So in the A20 zone, 19 units are required. 19 units are yielded by the density calc, and we are only proposing 11 in that area. And then the A80 zone yields a total of 37 units, and we are proposing 33 in that area. And these number of units are the same in both the conventional and in the proposed RPD plan as well. And then if we could just bring up the RPD. So as you can see on this plan, we're proposing a large amount of open space and then 44 lots as yielded in the conventional yield. The roadways as shown on this plan would also be public roadways with the same right-of-way width and pavement width. All of the lots would meet the reduced dimensional requirements for an RPD in their corresponding zone. So if they're in the A20, they'll meet the A20 and vice versa. The utilities will be proposed for the homes, including both water and sewer. And then since the project is being proposed as a residential, as an RPD project, we are required to provide substantial open space, which is 25% of the total land area. And as a part of our application, we are actually providing 52 acres of usable area, which is well in exceedance of the required minimum to be provided on the lot. Additionally, half of the open space that is required on the lot must be usable and suitable for development, and we are providing well in exceedance of this as well. The open space will be maintained in its existing conditions and will be used for passive recreation purposes. And with that, I would appreciate any feedback that the board may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from members of the commission? Commissioner Frias.
Just so I understand let's say the A20, so the lot size would be, it's going to be around 20,000 square acres. That's what it is, even under the RPD concept.
So for the RPD, the A20 would require a minimum lot area of 10,000, and the A80 would require a minimum of 20,000.
Okay. And so under the RPD plan, all these things get shrunk. But you're saying the density stays the same because you're taking into account the entire space that's left open space, right?
Correct. Because of all of the large amount of open space and the wetlands on the site.
Okay. It's a pretty significant development for the western side of the city. Have you talked about water services, sewer services? Have you talked at all about schools capacity? Whether it be going to Orchard Farms, which I think has a capacity issue, or Oaklawn School?
Well, as a prelude, I did inquire of the school department, and I'm told that if there were school-age children in this development, for an elementary school, they would attend Orchard Farms, Hope Highlands for middle school, and Cranston West for high school, if they chose to enter into the public school system. I know that this topic has come up on previous occasions by this commission and by this commissioner. This is a project by right. We're not asking for any zone change, unlike other projects you've reviewed in recent past. Because I interpret this as a project by right, I don't believe that while we will certainly be happy to answer questions about it, I don't believe that's one of the criteria for approving this subdivision. I should underscore that at the beginning. The property is located in Cranston, but, we can throw a baseball to the town of Coventry, West Warwick, and Situate. So it's a rather, if you remember, former principal planner Ken Kirkland grew up in Coventry, and when we met, I mean, he knew just about everybody on the street, so he was very familiar with the area at the time. But so, yes, we are in Cranston. The access to this development will be through proposed extension of Vaughan Lane and Winnie Street and out onto Main Street. But across Main Street is Situate. You turn left when you come out, you're into Coventry and West Warwick. So but yes, if there were families with children of school age and they chose to go to public school, they would, and we'll provide further discussion about it because I know it's of interest to the commission.
I don't know this area very well, but I would imagine that the surrounding area is not as compact as this proposal. Like I don't visualize that this kind of development exists near there, right?
Well, you may recall, probably a year ago, I came here with a proposed house to be replaced on Main Street. That whole stretch of Main Street there, as I recall, is zone C4. It's a commercial zone, and so everything's non-conforming in that area. There's some condos. The lot size is actually, in my opinion, and we'll provide some analysis of this, would be not inconsistent with what's proposed here.
Okay.
If you talk about Lippert Avenue, which, when I go out this way, I go Lippert Avenue. Most of those have, those lots, relatively small houses. The lots aren't big. Some, back up to this, but, in my opinion, just as an attorney for the project, the lot sizes here would not be, inconsistent with what I think is in the area.
Okay.
Both in Situate, West Warwick, Coventry, and Cranston.
Okay. And the last question is, what made you want to go with the concept plan versus the conventional plan? Is there any particular reason one way or another?
Well, I think the first consideration is the opportunity to maintain quite a bit of open space. This is a cluster development, which in many communities, you're almost forced to do cluster developments. This commission in recent, it's been a while since I've done an RPD or an MPD, but an RPD for residential. It does bring down not only the area of the lots, but the amount of frontage required. And, so there are some, you could make an argument there's some savings, but at the end of the day, the overall benefit, can we put up the conventional plan? You can see a lot more roadway, bigger lots, and you know, it would, we just think that we can create a nice community here with the RPD versus a more traditional big lot. You know, because we're not asking for a zone change for the A80. You know, we're complying with the ordinance in the A80. I just want to underscore what Jenna was saying, just so it's clear. You know, in the middle of the screen or a little to the right, you can see an open area there. I don't know, kind of looks like Utah or Colorado or something. That is not part of the development. And those homes there get access through actually a wetlands at the end of Vaughan Lane. They have a gravel driveway and easement across this property. You know, we're not interfering with their access to their homes in any way. You know, in this conventional plan, they would actually end up getting some frontage, I think. I mean, we haven't designed it, but it looks like they'd end up getting some frontage on that roadway to the right. Can we go to the RPD? You know, so obviously they would stay isolated, you know, with their access right now. And there would be no roads, you know, coming around them, and it would retain more of the character of what they're used to right now.
And just the last thing, because I just demonstrate my ignorance on this. Once you make this proposal as an RPD and all that green space exists, which is basically the primary reason for an RPD, that has to stay open space, doesn't it? Or is it like 10 years from now, you guys could come up with a plan, like I want to put some stuff over here?
No, as part of the RPD, there would be a development agreement with restrictive covenants on that. It
Okay,
would be
all right.
dedicated to, in a while, I believe we would dedicate it to a homeowners association with restrictions. The city would be granted a perpetual easement to it if they ever had to maintain it. You know, we're not proposing, you know, as Jenna said, you know, passive recreation, you know, walking trails, things like that are, you know, would probably develop over time. But, you know, we're not proposing any ball fields. We're not proposing soccer fields. It's, there is, there would be limitations on what type of recreation could be allowed in that area. But, you know, once the RPD were approved, final approval and recorded, there would be no further alteration, because as part of that recording, you know, you'd have to make those dedications at that time.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to express that personally, I would strongly support the RPD version of this plan over the traditional plan. I do know the area pretty well, and you have pockets of small houses on small lots. You have pockets of developments with bigger lots, and I think preserving that much open space is a definite benefit to the community, to avoid sort of that continued growth of the houses on 2-acre lots chewing up lots of open space. If we're going to end up with the same number of houses anyway, there's real value in protecting that open space. There's also value to the city, and I know this from my past, of having fewer roads to pave and plow, having fewer power lines to come down in storms, all those things that come with large spread out developments. So I definitely think of the two choices, the RPD is beneficial to the city in many ways.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a comment. In the past, under the subdivision regulations, it was up to the developer to convince the commission that cluster was better than conventional. And, you know, Bob and I have worked on quite a few of these over the years. However, we haven't seen one of these, especially of this scale, in years. This is the largest subdivision we've seen in quite some time. So most of the commission has not seen one of these of this scale. The Plan Commission, maybe 10 years ago, maybe more, changed that standard in the subregs that cluster is the preferred mode of development, and that the applicant has to convince the commission that conventional is better than cluster. So I just want to be clear about that, and I know a lot of the commission has not seen these before. And, you know, for all the reasons why we know that the cluster is preferred, the open space, the less drainage, the less runoff, everything else that goes along with that, this is the standard that we want to see. So we wanted to bring this before the commission to get your thoughts. And again, we know that you haven't seen one of this scale in, I don't know, it's been almost 10 years. So I just wanted to clarify that. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments, Commissioner Matus?
I apologize. I know that you mentioned this, Ms. Shea. Is it going to be sewered?
We're still, I can answer that. We're still looking at options there. There are benefits to sewer, but the sewer would probably go into possibly Coventry. But we could certainly do septic here, but we haven't, that decision hasn't been made yet.
Okay, that's fair enough. Next question related to utilities. Are you, and if I'm getting in too much detail, please stop me. Are you foreseeing overhead wires for electrical, or is it going to be underground? Typically, this part of the city is more underground than above ground. It's a minor detail, but
Yeah, I don't think we've got there yet, but I mean,
that's fair enough.
is there a suggestion or?
Underground is in the regulations as
Right,
the
I was gonna say
standard.
that. I thought, yeah. I didn't want to overstep. You know, those are the type of decisions that the owner needs to converse with Dupree Engineering on.
No, I know we're on prelim here, so I'm getting a little too much in the weeds here. The next thing is is this going to be city right of ways, the roadways?
I missed that.
Are these going to be city right of ways, the roadways
Yeah,
that
we're
are proposed?
proposing public.
Okay, so we would just have a bond.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lima, is there anybody online who has a question or would like to be heard on this? Jess Salter? Please
Hi.
continue. Thank you.
Hi. Jess Salter. I live at 6 Vaughn Lane. I apologize for my ignorance in asking these questions. I am one of two or three abutters for this. And I was literally alerted of this 10 minutes ago and signed on. This is the first that I've seen of these plans. I'm not sure if abutters at this point in the process are required to have been notified. But I can assure you if we are required, we have not been. So I do have some questions about access to this proposed subdivision. I know I heard very quickly a mention of access via Vaughn Lane and another access point. Can the designer or engineer speak a little bit more about what that would mean for what Vaughn Lane looks like, and how that capacity would be increased, because it is a very small access point surrounded by historic stone walls. And I find it hard to believe that that would be a practical access point for a subdivision of this size or construction.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, let me just answer the first part of that.
Yes, yeah.
As I stated a minute ago, as part of this pre-application, there was no notice to neighbors. Obviously, you know, when and if we get to the point where there's a public hearing, we'll make certain there's proper notice to everybody, and I'll certainly make sure Mrs. Salter is aware of what's going on. Jenna, do you want to talk a little bit about the access? Or, I mean, what the plan, and I don't know if Ms. Salter, if we put it, I don't know if she has access to it, if we put the plan back up on the screen, does that Ms. Salter, are you able to see the plan if we put it on the screen or?
Right now I can only, yes, now I can see it as it's on the screen. Yes.
Okay, so, by the way, this is Attorney Bob Murray for the applicant. As Ms. Shea from Dupree Engineering said, there will be 2 points of access to this. One will be an extension of Vaughan Lane, and one will be an extension of what's, I believe, Winnie Street, W-I-N-I. We have not yet done the engineering yet. We will build the roads in this subdivision to the city required standards. And as we work with the existing Vaughan Lane coming off Main Street, we will figure out what we need to do there and with respect to, when you say things like stone walls and everything else, we'll have to take all that into consideration. But that right now, that would be that's our rightful access right now out to Main Street through Winnie Street and Vaughan Lane.
Okay. So, to give you perspective about where I live and my, my, orientation in this, that center spot that looks like the state of Georgia and Alabama right next to each other in the center there, that's me. That will now be surrounded by houses, and I front on Vaughan Lane. That I just have some serious concerns about a division of this magnitude coming in off of that main street. And to answer the commissioner's earlier questions about developments of this size in this area, no, there are none of this size. This is a very rural area, and there are no such developments of this size. Okay, so sorry, Mr. Murray, when will we receive information about this so that we can have some time to review it?
Through the chair, tonight was just the first night of just showing this to the Planning Commission. We're going to take what we listened to tonight, including your remarks, and we will figure out what changes, if any, we're going to propose based on what we hear tonight. There's a certain, the phases that we're going to go through with this commission will require several hearings, public hearings, notice to neighbors. I can't tell you for certain when the next time we'll appear before the commission. It could be in the next couple of months, but I will make a personal commitment to make sure you're familiar with it. Just by clarification, Ms. Salter, I believe that in the context with respect to the, I don't think I said, or I don't think it was intended to suggest that there were other residential subdivision developments this size in the area. I was speaking towards the lot sizes of the individual lots in the house. I thought that's what the commissioner was asking. But I understand that this is a change for you. I don't know if you heard me say that, the access you presently have to your property will not change in any way. But yes, there would be homes constructed in the immediate vicinity of your property.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just add that with all the applications, the materials will be posted to the city's website well in advance of any kind of public hearings that we'll have, so that everybody will have all the information available prior to us even issuing our staff reports. So everyone should be informed when that time comes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Douglas Stowe.
Yes, Mr. Doe.
Douglas Doe, 178 Lippert Avenue in Cranston. Just a couple of questions. One on the open space. I'd really like to see a conservation easement for this property, for that land, preferably held by a third party. I know we're doing a new comprehensive plan. And I'm for one, going to be advocating the expansion of the Knight Farm project, conservation land. And I really like to see a connection between the two up through on the west side of Lippert Ave. There's a lot of undeveloped land in there. It's not suitable for development, including the land that's in the open space. I had a chance to walk the property just to the east, and it's extremely rocky, steep, steep inclines, water. I would note that some of the soil type on this property is Lippert gravelly soil loam. And that was prevalent on the Lippert Solar Project, and that required months of blasting and quarry operations. Just to give you an idea what kind of soil we have out here. Also, those 3 lots on the east side, the isolated lots, how are those considered buildable? Given how isolated they are on the other side of the wetlands? Thank you.
And there is no additional public comment.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to close public comment. Motion made by Commissioner Zadelis, seconded by Commissioner Matus. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. So do you have enough information that I think there's been some good input?
Sure. Thank you for your time. If anybody has any additional information, feel free to share it through the staff. And, we will see you at some point in the future, keeping in mind the comments we heard tonight. And this will be an ongoing process. Hopefully, at the end of the day, we'll have a project that the commission is satisfied with, and we can proceed forward. So thank you for your time.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Okay, zoning board of review recommendations. Tri-State Displays and Lamar Advertising have applied to the board for permission to replace the west side only of existing double-sided billboard to a digital advertising panel at One Wholesale Way.
All right. So this is an application to, there's already an existing billboard on One Wholesale Way. You can see the little red dot in the aerial view, the little red square. That's where it sits. It looks out onto Route 37 highway. The billboard's already there. It's kind of just like a conventional, just one paved over billboard. And the proposal is to replace one of the sides, the side looking out west. So drivers from heading east on Route 37 would be able to see it. They want to replace the existing size with an LED billboard. So real quick, here's the zoning map. It's right on the edge of the other zone, but it's still fully within the M2 zone and fully within that lot. Here's the future land use map. This is an industrial zone lot. The aerial view. Here in the 3D aerial view, you can kind of see the angle a bit better of like the existing billboard that we're talking about. It's right next to this warehouse and Topgolf. Here's a quick street view. So this is basically as you're passing by, this is what you see more or less. Briefly, the sign plan, not much to look at. It's just where the LED is mostly going to cover. What you can already see is mostly going to be covered by the LED sign. And this is a use variance specifically. So we're also talking about the standards for the use variance. Specifically, what they're asking for is we're specifically prohibit any signs that are not, expressly permitted, and the zoning ordinance does not mention LED or like digital billboards at all. So these digital billboards have come to this commission before and has gone to the zoning board before. And, they're not permitted in the zoning code anywhere. That said, other LED billboards have been approved by the zoning board through use variances in the past, and several are installed. That includes LED signage as well as LED billboards. And there are other known animated signs in the nearby area. There's the building that the building that is next to the area that the billboard is on, or where the billboards stand. That same building actually has these like very animated LED signs, like just on the wall. But this would be the first like LED billboard in that area, as far as we're aware. And the future land use map designates the subject property as industrial. And that said, the comprehensive plan is largely silent on LED billboards and how that fits into the comprehensive plan. And these LED billboards have come to us in the past, and I took a lot of the findings and analysis that I'll be discussing from pretty in-depth report from a previous planner, Greg. I'm going to be mostly reiterating the same things that he mentioned in a past report about a very similar proposal. And that is, for one, this is also all laid out in the staff report as well. But, for one, billboards kind of detract from the visual aesthetics of an area. Even though this is an industrial area, it still can be very unsightly. And, digital LED billboards have shown to compromise traffic safety on arterial roads because they increase distractions to drivers and have shown that crashes tend to increase where, more of these very animated billboards are present. And, the more, attention grabbing these billboards are, the more it seems to have like this positive relationship where it also increases the amount of crashes. Another term for like the kind of, I guess, the industry term for LED billboards is this commercial electronic variable message signs. And those specifically are even, more distracting to drivers and compromise traffic safety even more than just a regular static billboard. And this application also doesn't add any details of like what exactly is going to be put on the sign. As I said, like the more animated a billboard, the more things that are attention grabbing, the more distracting this to drivers. And applicant has not really given any details of like what's going to be on the billboard. Will it be animated? Will it just be, a static image that changes every 30 seconds, every minute or so? There's no detail, so it could give them potentially just kind of, carte blanche of like being able to put on there whatever they desire. And in addition, like digital billboards also contribute to light pollution and can also add to disruption of the natural environment. Additionally, there's also no guidelines for how, this kind of signage is developed in city codes, and how it would fit into, existing commercial centers or, along these arterial corridors. And therefore is also inconsistent with our economic development goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. There's also double that. And additionally, so the specific comprehensive plan, the commercial development aspect. So the comprehensive plan, the commercial goal 1A basically says to improve and maintain the efficient flow of traffic, particularly in commercial centers and along arterial streets. As discussed, given that it's kind of compromising traffic safety, this is one of the goals that kind of speaks against the approval of this positive recommendation for this application. Therefore, in accordance with Rhode Island General Law 4524, 41B, and Section 1792, 10A of the zoning ordinance, staff finds this application to be inconsistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan, determines that it's not compatible with the general character of the surrounding neighborhood. Staff therefore recommends that the City Plan Commission adopt the findings of facts documented above and forward a negative recommendation on the application to the Zoning Board of Review.
Okay, thank you. If I could just, and I think the commission knows that I'm not a big fan of LED signs. I also am under no illusion that the Zoning Board of Review will take our advice. However, along Route 37, there is continually changing traffic patterns in that area. I mean, there's a whole new off-ramp that people need to get used to. The Route 295 project just down the road has traffic patterns that are continually changing and will probably be going on for 2 or 3 more years. So even though I do object in general to the LED signs, I think this location in particular causes it to be an extra hazard. Any questions, comments? Yes, Commissioner.
First to the staff, thank you for your report, including the citations to studies and other documentation. I can tell you put some effort into it, and I always like when the people make an effort like that. I'm one of these people that really doesn't care that much about billboards, one way or another. My question for the staff is, when you say there are like 2 other billboard signs, 2 other signs in the area that are they comparable to this? How are they different? Can you just I think you used the phrase like there were electronic signs. I just want to understand how you're distinguishing this one from the 2 that are currently existing in the area.
Sorry, I should have gotten into more details about that. So the only comparable signs that I've seen that are like these animated signs are wall signs, specifically on the this building up here on the corner. I think it's Sauconasset and this is Pontiac. Yeah. So this building right here, right at the corner right here, has these 2 wall signs on each corner that are very, very animated, but they're also, much smaller than something billboard, and they're not showing, they're not directly on the arterial.
Yeah, so that's in violation of the zoning approval, by the way. But
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, I mean, they didn't
Interesting.
approve.
I didn't know that,
So,
actually.
obviously the problem is, that as far as city resources, the sign animation police, it's low on the agenda, but I can tell you, Ruggieri, that it was not approved with that amount of animation or change rate. As was the one on Reservoir Avenue with the liquor store. I have them in my head. But with that said, all you can do is give a recommendation. All the zoning board can do is approve it with conditions, and ultimately, to be perfectly honest, ironically, my son's in advertising in New York, and he was here at Topgolf, and he's basically said Topgolf made, before this application came in, Topgolf made that sign worth 10 times what it was, because now they have a set number of eyes on that sign for hours. And really, this sign really probably has nothing to do with Route 37, but has to do with, not that that has anything to do with your recommendation. But I can tell you, literally, we had this conversation a couple months ago. He said that sign's now worth a ton of money. So I'm sure the billboard company saw that.
So the neighboring signs, what I just heard is that one of them are not even in compliance with the zoning approval. Is that accurate?
I don't know if they're, I haven't, I'm assuming they're not,
Okay.
I'm not the enforcement police. I don't want to tell Ruggieri that they're getting cited. I
Yeah.
can just tell you that it seems the change rate does seem to be
Exceeding?
excessive.
Okay.
But just a follow-up question, just in comparison, the scale of those signs compared to this one is would you say an apples and oranges comparison?
Yes.
So the difference is your primary reason, I'll explain my rationale, my reasoning. If I'm going to I like treating people the same, who are in the same situation. You know, if I'm a business over here and I got a light going ding, 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 I should be able to do the same thing over here. But if you're telling me that this is a much larger sign than these other guys with their animated things, then I understand the distinction you're trying to tell me. And I want to say something else that the chairman said. I know about the patterns about Route 37, all this changing. I got a son with a car and it's like sometimes there are issues. So I get that. And who's this? Is this Topgolf sign or is this somebody else? Who's putting this sign up?
No, it's this industrial building right next to Top
Right
Golf.
next to it. Okay.
Is the one industrial building that's there, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's all my questions. Thank you.
I also need to ask Mr. Lima if there are any people online who would like to be heard about this.
There is no public comment.
We have checked that. No public comment. Okay. And Mr. Garahy, do you have anything to? No, okay. All right. So there's just let the record show that there's no public comment either present or online. So I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would forward the staff's negative recommendation on this project.
Okay, Commissioner Zadalis moves to approve the staff's negative recommendation. Seconded by Commissioner Lanfear. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the negative recommendation goes forward. Okay, next item, Ellen and Ider Ben Bouaza have filed an application to construct a two-story addition encroaching into the rear setback exceeding allowable lot coverage on an existing single-family home at 3 Sefton Drive.
Just keep this short and sweet. As you can see, the request is to allow relief for rear setback requirement and overall lot coverage for an addition to an existing single-family house, which will add a primary bedroom and a bathroom in a B1 zone. The lot is located on 3 Sefton Drive, Assessor's Plat 2, Lot 3924. Here it is shown on the zoning map with the star on the parcel. Future land use map, under the future land use map, it is designated for single two-family residential less than 10.89 units per acre. I will note this is a pre-existing non-conforming lot. This is the street view of the subject parcel, rear view of the subject parcel. Site plan, also all these are included in my memo on the website, so I'm sure you've seen them all previously. Okay, so as for staff findings, the applicant seeks to construct a new two-story addition, including a bedroom and a full bath at the lower level of the existing residence, and to expand the existing dining room and living room on the first floor. The applicant seeks to remove the existing exterior staircase, door, and portion of exterior walls at the west elevation. A new roof deck is proposed off of existing primary bedroom. I just wanted to note in my memo and for the record, the city's GIS inventory and the tax assessment data has this lot recorded as being of 7,912 square feet. That's an issue with the GIS, which we will definitely let them know so they can change that. The actual size of the subject lot is 3,114 square feet per the Class 1 survey provided by the applicant with the application materials and verified by staff. But, so the existing rear setback is 18.7 feet. The proposed with the addition is 7.1 feet. Under, the code that we received through the building department for this variance, like relief request was a 20-foot minimum. And under the sliding scale, it's a 10-foot minimum. So even under the sliding scale, the applicant still requires relief for rear setback. But for overall lot coverage, the existing lot coverage is 25.7% of the lot and proposed is 40.8%. Under the regulations, under the code, it's a 35% maximum, but under the sliding scale, which is reflected in the new state law, it's 76% maximum. So again, the applicant,
Is that the new state law or the new state law that just took effect 5 days ago? Okay. Oh, they changed it again to, I mean, we can have a meeting on it if you, I don't want to belabor this, but, they changed it again on how substandard lots of record and the sliding scale of, and you got to take the zone that's nearest to the zone that your lot is, and it's so clear that they gave, for example, in the state law, that's how, so they wrote it so unclearly that they actually gave an example in the statute. But don't worry about that. You just go on it like you're doing now.
thank you. Okay, I'll just skip that since we've received some clarification. So staff has reviewed this application in consideration of the compatibility with the general character of the surrounding neighborhood, and the request does not impose undue nuisances and is not out of character beyond any other uses on this site or within the surrounding area. The property and surrounding area are residential in nature, and their request does not propose or encourage incompatible uses that would be disruptive to the surrounding area. The proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the density of the lot is not proposed to change. As I mentioned, it's a very small lot. It's pre-existing non-conforming to zoning. The future land use map designates the subject property as single, two-family residential less than 10.89 units per acre. Again, the lots of a configuration pre-existing non-conforming. Per the comp plan, the B1 residential single-family zoning district is an appropriate zoning classification for single-family residential land designation and development. Staff finds the application is not inconsistent with the FLUM designation due to the fact that the unit density is not proposed to change. This is not an addition of a unit. As for relevance to the comp plan, granting relief would be generally consistent with the following comprehensive plan elements and goals. Land use goal 9, to protect and stabilize existing residential neighborhoods. Land use policy 9.3, to preserve the existing density of established neighborhoods. Housing goal 2, to permit a variety of residential development types to achieve multiple community objectives. And housing policy 2.2, to enact flexible development standards that attain desired community objectives, but also provide a wide range of building types, uses, subdivisions, and site plans. With all of that being said, and in accordance with Rhode Island general law and with the city zoning ordinance, staff finds this application generally consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan and is compatible with the general character of the surrounding neighborhood. Therefore, staff recommends that the commission forward a positive recommendation on the application to the zoning board of review.
All right, questions, comments, members of the commission? Mr. Garrahy, did you want to?
Chairman, members of the commission, John Garrahy on behalf of the applicant and the owner. As your staff has recommended, under the new laws, which we've heard about tonight. We originally applied, I was not originally involved in this, but originally applied for a coverage variance, lot coverage variance, and a rear yard variance. We still need a 2.7 feet rear yard variance. The coverage variance, we do not need anymore because we're at 40.8 and 70.76 is allowed on this 3,000 plus square foot lot. Small lot. It's interesting in that the elevation falls down so that the way that the addition is going to be built, it's not going to be any larger than the existing structure. There's going to be a deck on the back. So it's not going to be detrimental to any of the views that are there because it's frankly in a bit of a hole, which will prevent it from being larger than the existing structure itself. Small lot, small house, small addition, very interesting area. My office is on Broad Street, half a mile from this. You have to kind of go in and around and back and through to find the property itself. The owners have talked to all the neighbors who have no objection to it. It's for their family to, it's really quite a remarkable piece of property and just to give them more room than it currently exists.
Okay, is anybody online who would like to be heard on this matter?
There is no public comment.
No public comment. Yes, Commissioner Lanfear.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I was a little bit confused. I live in the area, so I'm familiar with where this is, and it's a nice spot. When I look at the map, area map, the property says condo. Can you explain that?
So I think I can. So they created, there's 3 houses down there in that little cul-de-sac, if you will. They're a part of a condominium. They're each separate lots. And I think they probably pay common area associations, but they're separate lots. They're a land condominium that was created, I'd say 30 years ago. I don't know why that was done. But this is a separate lot which the single-family home is located on it.
Okay. So following up on that,
Yeah.
if I look at the site map, that one? You want to put it up?
Oh, sorry. Put up this.
Mine is really tiny, but I'm
Mine is
going to
too.
try to read it.
Mine is.
So there is the hashed area that's the proposed addition. There is the existing area of 3,000, I think it's 144 square feet.
Correct.
And then right to the right of that is an area that says limited common element. And I guess my question, what I'm trying to get at is, if there is a condo association, is this lot that we are talking about, are any of the improvements or what we are giving approval to extending into a common area?
I see what you're pointing to. The front part of that is kind of a driveway area. The front area is so narrow.
Yes.
Right? But the
I see Sefton Drive, and then when you get to the end of Sefton Drive, there is a way to the right.
Exactly. And that's how you access the property.
Yes.
And as you go through to the property where that limited common area is, my recollection from being there today is that that is the driveway.
Okay.
Or the, I would say the driveway, which is forms part of the cul-de-sac, probably gives you one, so you probably need to turn around there
Okay.
for the condominium units in order to exit the property.
So the only owners of the lot in question are your clients who have signed the application?
That's correct.
There aren't any others?
There are
And no common area involved in
That's correct.
in that? Okay. Thank you. And the only other question I had, just to understand, I was really confused, although I think you may have cleared some of that up. Sometimes the improvements were referred to as first floor, sometimes they were lower level,
They did.
sometimes
I
it
agree with
was
you.
primary bedroom. I was very confused about what was going where. I think I understand now that the lower level is being improved.
The lower level and the first floor is being improved, and then a deck is on top of that.
Okay.
I think it's confusing because of the elevations, because there's the ground floor, which is below grade, then there's the first floor, and then there's a deck above it. That's how I understand it.
Yes, and then they had some interchangeable terms for some of those. It wasn't always consistent, which I think
Agreed.
was hard to understand, but
Agreed.
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move to accept the staff recommendation for a positive
Commissioner,
recommendation.
Commissioner Coop moves to accept staff recommendation as a positive recommendation, seconded by Commissioner Exter. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, since I wasn't in the room for the
Yes.
vote, could I just vote, not vote or abstain from
Abstain.
voting?
Yes, yes, yep. Okay, yeah, Commissioner Zadelis is recorded as not voting on that matter. Thank you, John. Okay, Cesar Gonzalez has applied to the board to request permission to expand and convert an existing single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling on an undersized lot at 12 Howard Street.
So for context, this application is going to look eerily similar than last month's application. It is basically the same thing, except for a three-family. They're now proposing a two-family. Largely the same additions that they're proposing. The only thing that they have removed from the application is the basement apartment. Again, here is the zoning map. This is a B2, which allows two-family. It's the land use map, less than 10.39 units, units per acre. Again, here's the aerial view of the existing property, street view of the property that's there. Boundary survey. Just the existing conditions, and once again, the proposal, as you can see there, kind of expanding the second floor to like a full-size second floor rather than the smaller one. Again, to avoid kind of confusion, looking at this plan, you're looking at you can see the base, that's the foundation. Rather than being a built-out apartment this time, it is just going to be a standard basement. No additions to the sides of the property, just an addition in the rear, including the increase in height. And so previously in the previous application, in addition to not meeting the, at the time, I think it was 12,000, 14,000 square feet that they needed for a multifamily. So for the two-family, they need 8,000 square feet. Site lot area has 6,000, so just under 2,000 square feet. Relief is needed. And this time around, they have enough parking for both units, so no relief from the parking requirements is needed this time. And we have, reviewing it with the application, we think this application, especially compared to the three-family, is definitely a bit more in character than the proposed three-family. So we believe that the property and the surrounding area are, residential nature. Request does not propose or encourage any incompatible uses that rest throughout the surrounding area. The multifamily, two-family use in this case is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And so as you can see, it is conforming lot size for single family, but it is somewhat still undersized for a two-family residence. And the proposed density is going to be 14.5 units per acre, which does not conform with the 10.39 units per acre that is required. The neighborhood itself, so just kind of take into account the little jug handle. When I did the again density calculations of the neighborhood again, I just kind of took into account all the properties within this little jug handle right here. And so in taking into account the density numbers of that area, it is about 10.8 units per acre is the median. The average is a little higher. The median is definitely more conservative value here. And it's about 3.7 units per acre less than the proposal. And the area is majority single family, but there are quite a few two families and also several three families and a couple, I think it was a 5-family, and then there's to the north, there's also a very, very large, like multifamily apartment complex. And, there's two-family properties right across the street from the proposed lot, and 6 other two-family properties in the area. The rest are going to be, smaller single-family properties on about the 6,000 square foot lots. It's also important to mention that there are several two-family buildings in the area are also on undersized lots. Median lot size being, just under 8,000 square feet. And the median density of the two-family buildings is around 11 units per acre. For the three-family buildings, the median lot size was actually smaller, and the density numbers were significantly higher, around 19 units per acre. So this proposal kind of falls, a little bit in between the two and the three families, but and yes, it still kind of exceeds the density, the neighborhood and a little bit the density of the two-family lots in the neighborhood, but comparative to like the three families in the area, it still shows much lower density. It's definitely much more reasonable than a lot of the other three families. So, and, while the future land use map, shows that it's less than 10.39 units per acre, we argue that even though the proposal is above that, therefore doesn't fit into the, doesn't conform to the density designation of 10.39, less than 10.39 units. I do want to argue that the proposal has addressed the inconsistency in the following ways. You know, even though the immediate neighborhood exceeds the density number, and while the property exceeds the median density of the neighborhood, is not uncharacteristic for the neighborhood, as several multifamily properties in the area exceed the density numbers even more, with the median density of all three family units being around 19 units per acre. The proposed density is within a reasonable range from the neighborhood density of 10.8 units per acre. Other two-family properties on undersized lots are present on Howard Streets, including there's two families right across the street from this property. Two families, both of them are on undersized lots as well. Proposal has plentiful parking, so we're not going to see really an issue with that. They proposed 4 parking spaces. In the expansion of the building's footprint, you know, it's not going to be to the side, it's not going to be to the front, it's only in the rear, which is not even really going to be noticeable by anyone around the neighborhood. And it's minimal enough to fit within the surrounding area and is otherwise also, you know, conforming. And, you know, we're arguing that the granting of relief would be consistent with these elements. Yeah, so our recommendation is in accordance with Rhode Island General Law, Section 4524-41B and Section 1792-10A of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds this application consistent, that's supposed to say consistent with the goals and purposes of the comprehensive plan, is compatible with the general character of the surrounding neighborhood. Staff therefore recommends that the City Plan Commission adopt the findings of fact documented above and forward a positive recommendation to the application of the Zoning Board of Review.
Thank you very much for that analysis and recommendation. The chair notes for the record that no one is physically present to be heard on this matter. Is there anyone online who would like to be heard?
There is no public comment.
No public comment. So questions from members of the commission? Commissioner Lanfear.
Not really a question, and I'll be brief, but I don't think that we did not approve the 3-family based on some of the density considerations. The flume says that the density should be ideally 10.39. The existing is 10.8. This project would make it 14.5. What we should be doing is preserving the density of neighborhoods, not increasing the density. We stabilize existing neighborhoods by keeping the density at what the flume says it should be and not allowing an increase in density. So in that respect, I find it to be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan.
Commissioner Frias.
As you would imagine, I'm going to be agreeing with Commissioner Lanfear. He goes against 9.3, doesn't preserve the density of the existing neighborhood, and also exceeds by about 34% the future land use map density. So I'll be voting no on this.
Okay, anyone else? In that case, I will accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just gonna, because I have to, I know this neighborhood. If there's any neighborhood in Cranston where you wouldn't notice that difference in density, it's this neighborhood. You have Devon Manor, you could throw a baseball and hit Devon Manor from here, which is a large scale housing development. This is smaller than unnoticeable and inconsequential. And I think while I understand the need to be consistent and the need to follow the future land use map, there has to be some awareness of the surroundings and the neighborhood. And I really think it would be a mistake to stick so inflexibly to a formula that was written in a comp plan some years ago that can't possibly adapt to what's happening in our neighborhoods. My 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Commissioner Lampier.
I appreciate that, and I think there are times when we disagree, but there are also times when you convince me that I'm not correct about something, so I appreciate that. It's a 34% deviation, and I will also say that I think part of the problem is sometimes we throw our hands up when we are in areas that we perceive as being dense. We got the numbers from staff that right now it's teetering on what's the appropriate density. It's a little bit over, but this would be much more over, 34% over. I think we need to draw the line somewhere, and I think we all draw that line in a different place sometimes. But for me, the 34% is not de minimis or inconsequential. And I think that we need to try our best to maintain the appropriate densities for neighborhoods, especially overdeveloped ones.
Okay, thank you. I will entertain any motion.
I'll try it. A motion to accept the staff recommendation.
Okay, Commissioner Coop moves to accept staff recommendation. Second. Commissioner Zadelis seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
What is the vote?
What, 3-3? Favor? We're 4 in favor? Okay, 4-3 passes. Against? Okay, 4-3 against. No. 4-3 against. Okay, very good.
Can we still get the, who voted for what? Can you just raise your hands
Yeah,
so we can?
voting in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, Commissioner Coop, Zadelis, and Smith. Voting against, Matus and Frias and Lanfear and Exeter. Okay, 4-3 fails. Yes. I'm just transfixed by the fireworks taking place in back of the seat here. Is that a sign, right? Actually, the director has a couple things he wants to.
Okay, briefly. All right, I guess we're going home then.
Be on the safe side. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, let's do that. Motion made by Commissioner Frias for negative recommendation. Okay, yep. Seconded by Commissioner Exeter. All in favor of the negative recommendation, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. Same numbers, same people. Okay. Good. Thank you. That's an important point. Okay, Mr. Director.
We are going to be doing interviews in a couple of weeks for 2 positions, the planner tech and the principal planner. Tech, we have a good interest in. Tech has, planner tech has been good interest, good amount of interest, good amount of applications. Principal planner has been tepid, so we'll see. Like I said, the interviews will probably be in a couple of weeks. We want to get those positions filled. Comprehensive plan. You saw my update in the email on Friday. We do not have all of the elements at this point. We still have about 4 outstanding elements we have not seen yet. The goals and policies element, this is what I think some of you have been interested in. In the last plan, every element had goals and policies and actions in every single element, and then they were duplicated, and then they were added to an implementation plan with timeframes. It got a little confusing that way. Sometimes not all of those were consistent. What we've done now is all the goals and policies and implementation action are going to be in one element, a clearinghouse element for all of those items. If anyone is waiting for any kind of, slam bang presentation on goals, policies, actions, and implementations, you will be sorely disappointed. Everything that is in there is from the old plan. The only things that won't be in there is what we've decided to take out because they were either defunct or irrelevant at this point because of a number of reasons. And we've itemized those with the consultants. So I'm waiting to get that back. Right now, we're working on the open space recreation element. We've sent back the housing element. After we've commented on that, there's quite a few things that we commented on. So we're looking to see that second draft. And then eventually, I think we'll see the land use element. I'm expecting to get all the remaining elements this week. So that means next week we'll be working on them in-house with staff and trying to turn them over as quickly as possible. And I was frank with with my report to the city council that the deadline to get this done is late in September. We don't have a plan yet. So hitting the September date, I think is going to be kind of a long shot at this point. That does not mean the city expires and that we can't, move along with our regular business. But we have to get this pulled together. We have to get it reviewed. And we have to have a plan that we're satisfied with before we even send it to the city council so that they can start the advertising and start their own public hearing process and notification process. So don't really know when we're going to have a public hearing with this body on a draft. What we do have is we have the elements that are up on the website, and some of them have been up there for a while. There will be more very shortly. Once they go up, I will notify everybody, and that's the opportunity to make comment. We really can't wait until the entire plan is pulled together. There are not major things that should be changing in this plan. That's the whole point. This is the update of the existing plan, this phase 1. So that's where we stand now. It's going to be a little frantic this month with the updating and revisions with the consultant, and then getting as close to a first draft as I can get before getting it to this body. So that's where we stand right now. It's been honestly, it's been kind of nerve-wracking and stressful trying to pull this together, but just being frank, the September deadline, I don't think we're going to hit it. Just with the timeframes of how all of this works, I just don't think we'll hit it, but we'll get close. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions or comments for the good of the, yes, Commissioner Lanfear.
I thought we had a process that we all agreed on for submission of comments, but maybe I don't recall what that was supposed to be. I don't want to go online and type my comments for the world to see. Not at this point, because it's still in draft form and it's still a draft document.
You don't have to publish them online. You can just send them to us. You can email the comments to us, and we can take those into account.
And then there's no opportunity for commissioners to, I might send some comments that make a lot of sense, and I may send some that don't make any sense to anybody else. And I think we need an opportunity as a commission sooner than later. I mean, there's been no subcommittee, there's been no opportunity for the commission as a group to sit down and talk about what portions of those elements might need to be changed. We shouldn't save it all till the end.
I am not asking you to save them to the end. I'm saying to get me the comments as soon as possible and that we can work with them.
Not the commissioner's office.
This is the fundamental problem that we discussed in the fall about how many editors are we going to have at once while we're trying to pull this together. This is what we talked about for about 3 months, about the problem of if you give me a comment, Coop gives me a comment, Steve gives me a comment, what is the comment that we're going to, go with? Because we can have very, very complex, differences of opinion. This is the problem here.
Which is why the commission as a group needs the opportunity to sit together.
Yeah,
And
we don't have a plan yet, though. That's the problem.
Can't we set up we have these elements already that are on the.
Some of them, I've stated in the past that if you had comments, get them to me so that we can try to incorporate them into the draft and then work with them with the consultant. So if we're waiting, I didn't know that there was a sense that we were waiting to get comments, because once the chapter is published, we're saying, okay, it's live. We've gone through it, the consultant's gone through it, and we feel comfortable that it should be, ready for comment. So if you want to comment, by all means, get us the comments and we can start compiling them. But at this point, I haven't received any comments from anybody because we're waiting for, I don't know, the exciting elements.
No, I think and I can only speak for myself, I'm waiting for the opportunity to sit down with my fellow commissioners and talk about some issues.
Well,
So that it can be, if there's agreement, incorporated into the draft.
Yeah.
But if there's not agreement, it wouldn't be.
Well, we don't have a draft yet. So that's the first thing. Once we have the plan, if we want to have the workshops, by all means, we can have as many workshops as we want. We're kind of under the gun in terms of trying to get this turned over and handed to the city council so they can adopt it. But I don't even have the chapters that people want to talk about at this point, right? No one wants to talk about MG. Natural resources and hazard mitigation is not something that excites people or lights a fire. Everyone wants to see the land use element. I haven't seen it myself. So when we get these elements, we need to work with them internally with staff to make sure that they make sense. And then we have to get the revisions back to the consultant. And then at that point, when we're closer to having a draft, if that's when we want to start having our discussions, that's when we're going to have it. So, this process, I've always stated from the very beginning, this is a long process. The idea that we're trying to do this in 1 year was always kind of a little mental, but this is the situation we're in right now. So, when we get the elements together and we get all of the plan, by all means, that's when I guess we'll have our discussions. Of course, we're going to have discussions. Of course, we're going to have public hearings on this. Yes, those are the vetted chapters. Yes.
Don't say they're non-occupational person or chapters, but still, there may be something in there and that may be for members of the plan. So, to get a point, I think we move on to have those dialogue on that, so that not try at the end, as we rush to get something to go help, we're better off to do the work now and then have more, I'll call it, yeah, a whole. we may want to think about how to do this in open session. A individual chapter may not take long, but let's devote the time to kind of do this directly embedded early enough so that there's no surprises. Or, I'm going to come here, so more frequently, so that's what we do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I echo the concerns of Commissioner Lampier and Commissioner Zadelis. I have not submitted any comments to the director because I was under the misimpression, and this is my own fault, maybe I didn't listen clearly enough, is I thought the chapters would be written with the goals at the back, and I was waiting for the goals to show up. I believe now I understand that the goals will all be in one section all by itself, and that we should be looking at the drafts of the elements now. I will tell this to my fellow commissioners, I've not been bothering the director, I haven't been bothering the consultant because I don't want to slow down the process or be an impediment. I will, over 4th of July weekend, look at the elements that have been completed. It's my understanding that there are about 4 elements, director can correct me if I'm wrong, that have been completed to the satisfaction of the consultant and the staff. I'd ask that the director just simply, and I've already had this brief communication with the director, just indicate, give me the Word version so I can make red line edits, okay? Of the chapters that are done for our review. I would then suggest to my fellow commissioners that possibly we should have a meeting at the end of July and just go over these 4 chapters. The director can then review the edits that we, the commissioners, submit on those 4 chapters that have been completed to the director's satisfaction. And we can review the edits that the commissioners suggest, and then that can be incorporated or not incorporated in the drafts of those 4 chapters. That I think would be one way of doing this so that at least some of this is done at the end of July and we can keep moving forward. That's my thought.
Okay, yeah, I have actually taken a look at the 4 sections that have been done online, and I'm sure people have taken a look at them as well. But I think that's a good suggestion.
And what's the 4 chapters, Mr. Director, that have been completed? I'm sorry, I don't recall off the top of my
At
head.
the top of my head, I believe it was energy, natural resources, hazard mitigation, and what was the last one? Economic development, yes.
Okay.
Yes, housing should be coming very soon. The implementation element should be coming back very soon. I'm expecting to get a dump of information tomorrow. So, we'll, if I have the vetted elements back from the consultant, I'll post those tomorrow if I can. We shall see how late, whether or not it comes tomorrow in the afternoon or comes tomorrow at midnight. We'll see when this information comes to me. So, Mr. Chairman, do we want to look at a date in late July to schedule? Well, there might be more than 4 elements to review in July. We might have 7 at that point. So, absolutely, we should do an extra meeting in August. I think so. Let's take a look. So the 4th week of July is usually available to us. So the 23rd, does that look like there's any other meetings on? I don't have the city calendar up right this second, but is the 23rd open? Yep. All right, so July 23rd. Okay. That's one. And August, what is that? Okay. August 27th, the latest. We might be able to push that up at that point. You know, that might be late in the cycle, but if we take the fourth Tuesday, that would be the 27th.
Is there any way we could start earlier?
Then the 23rd?
No, yeah, like, could we start at 4:30? I throw that out there depending on what other people can do, but I think that this certainly warrants us trying to sit for a bit and get things done, because there's nothing more important than getting the comp plan done on time.
On the 20, it's completely your pleasure what time we want to start. We're here, so if we want to start at 4:30, we want to start at 2:30, we're here, so.
That's fine. If you want to start at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, depends on other people's work schedules. I can't remember if I have something, but if you want to do July 23rd at 5 o'clock, let's just schedule it and get it going. Want to hear you.
I apologize. Director, in terms of Commissioner Frias's, request, can you push out the sections in Word? Because unlike Commissioner Frias, who's probably gonna redline it or, auto track it, I have the habit of just writing in the margins or writing in between, so I'm gonna print them out double spaced. So is there any way you could push those?
Yes, I cautioned sending anything out today because there's multiple versions of these floating around, so I didn't want to send out, an earlier work version. I want to make sure I had the time to make sure we were sending out the right version. So yes, we'll find out what was the latest and greatest in Word, and we'll send those out to folks so that we can get everybody working with those.
Thank you.
But those will not be posted on the website. We'll send those directly to you.
Do I need to make a motion for this meeting on July 23rd, or does it just get scheduled?
Yeah, we can just get.
Just by consensus.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good discussion.
And I will keep everybody updated as I get this information. I'm expecting a lot in the next few days.
Okay, great. With that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Frias moves to adjourn, seconded by Commissioner Matus. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay, and we are adjourned.